Hey, welcome back to Two Stupid Guys Trade Stocks. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Vinny.
And today we're going to look at the fear index. Everyone knows the greed versus fear. Vinny's going to talk a little bit about what Buffett says. But we're actually going to look at CNN's quantitative measuring of the fear index.
Interesting. All right, if you guys enjoyed this entertaining stock market content of Two Stupid Guys Trading Stocks and talking all things personal finance, by all means, give a like, subscribe below. We'd love to have you along this little adventure with us.
Two Stupid Guys Trade Stocks. All right. So, what's Buffett saying, Vinny?
To be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy.
There you go.
That's his credo, if you will.
Exactly. Before we look at this, just a quick little recap on the SPY. Let me move my face real quick.
It's a nice waterfall.
So we looked at this earlier. I said, and this is how cool this is. We filmed this video. Let me put the mouse on the screen. At this point. All right? This was last week. And I said, these red ones are already blown out. And it's going to hit the next yellow support and hesitate. And what did it do?
It did, yeah.
Almost
nice.
to the penny, baby.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you did definitely call the next leg down, and I don't know. My inkling is that it's still not over. What are you thinking as far as that goes?
I think it has to hit this, I would say, at least one more time. And then from there, me personally, no. I think we're going to the blue, which is, that's why I put that here.
Okay.
I figured, yes, it has to hesitate here. If you zoom out, it hit this 385 level a bunch of times. That's why I put it there. Also, we had a gap up and went even higher on fairly low volume.
Yeah. It's pretty weak. That's
pretty
what
weak.
Your point is.
Right?
Yeah. You know, what's interesting about this topic, too, the fear kind of quotient is that anecdotally, every other conversations I have with people now, people are far more fearful. People are kind of putting off some spending. People are really pessimistic about the economy right now. It's kind of interesting just from everyday conversations that I personally have had because I talk about this stuff at work all the time.
Yeah, I don't think our economy is that bad. I mean, I know gas is really high, but I mean, everything else is really good. I feel like if you compare, it was an extenuating circumstance on something that hasn't happened in 100 years, and then you compare us to Japan or most other countries. I don't know, great, but
Yeah, I think it's a perception more than one as actual reality, but perception has a way of becoming reality. Sometimes.
yeah,
People
grass
believe
is
it
always
enough.
greener, right? Well, I mean, that line that I found, right, shouldn't matter. It's just a number, but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy on I'm looking at it. I'm an amateur. Pros are definitely looking at it. So all of a sudden you get all this buying as it hits that level. It shoots up. That number doesn't mean anything. It's just everyone's looking at the same number.
Yeah, exactly. What does this number 12 here mean?
Yeah. So extreme fear. And then fear, neutral, greed, extra greed. Right?
Yeah.
So the fear index is an attempt to measure the sentiment in the market on obviously fear or greed. Some people throw this out, being like, hey, this is trash, this doesn't matter. I think it's not perfect at all, but I do think it helps, right? So we're going to look at the first, the 7 that are here. This 100-day moving average, honestly, it's just moving averages. Take out the 125. We're below the 50 and the 200. It's just we're below moving averages. That's all that means, right?
Okay. So it's weak.
It's weak, right? And this is also kind of the same thing. So net stock price highs and lows on the NYSE. We're getting more lows. They gave this an extreme fear indicator. All right?
Okay.
But then it has that kind of description of what this means right here. Stock price breadth. This is investors actively buying and selling. It's kind of looking at volume and how we are at lower volume, and lower volume usually means a bearish market because higher volume, everyone jumps in. Not saying I agree with that in any way.
Yeah.
But that's CNN's.
Really big down days tend to be pretty high volume. So that's kind of interesting.
So I think it's, when you look at a graph, when you look at volume price analysis, it's never on the opening minute where you have the most volume. It's on the 120 minutes where it's chilling at that price, where that volume adds up. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Okay.
That's just,
Interesting.
yeah. Extreme fear, put and call options. This one does make sense. The more put to call ratio, the more people are betting on puts than are calls. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
that does. That's very interesting. We were
Extreme
at historic
fear.
lows too.
Hmm?
We were at like all-time historic lows as far as like the call option to put ratio, the put call option ratio there.
Yeah, and Y charts actually has this being worse than this number. I don't know how they measure it, but Y charts actually has this being even higher, meaning even more extreme fear.
Interesting.
Market volatility, this one's obvious. More
Yeah.
volatility, and then above the 50-day moving average, the more fear. Honestly, we've spiked up the. If we can find a way to reliably play the VIX, that would be the best play ever. Because it goes like
Yeah.
$15 to 32 to 15 to 32 is amazing.
Yeah. That's the classic. Short the fix, right? Short volatility. That's generally what people do.
Right. And then you have your safe haven demand. This one's over my head. Difference in 20-day stock and bond returns. But I guess
Okay.
low equals extreme fear. I figured maybe you know this. This is the actual definition, so you can just cheat and read it. But
Okay.
right,
Interesting. Yeah.
and then
Makes more
junk
sense, I
bond
guess.
demand.
Yeah. People are going over relatively safer assets. Okay. I get that. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
here's the timeline. Okay, this is if this is the number. So we're at 12 as of Friday. The timeline of extreme fear being under 25 and extreme greed being over 75, going back to July 2021. We hit it a little bit once, but we've been chilling at this level for a while, making all-time lows as of May 12th.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I
Personally,
mean,
I think this number's got to be like a 4, and then I'll agree with it. I think we got
okay.
at least 20 more points on the SPY.
Oh, in terms of negative, yeah, but like that doesn't necessarily mean that the sentiment will be negative at that point in time. I agree. There's more down to go, but the sentiment may actually predate the downward movement, if you will. You know, when
Yeah,
the stock
well,
market's
I
at its
mean,
lowest, people may not be that pessimistic anymore.
that would be the whole buy on the fear, right? Because also as volatility spikes up, you would think that the market has to bottom before the extreme fear index bottoms. Hence, buying on fear, selling on greed.
Yeah, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Actually, I have another one interesting coming from Michael Burry tweet about market timing in terms of bottom. So I'll be interested to watch that video.
Yeah, yeah, should be pretty solid. All right, guys, let us know if you think this is like a valued indicator. I do think it has its place. I think it's behind, and it maybe if this was like a 3 or 4 at that point, maybe the SPY is 20 points lower, and I'd feel better. But yeah, I do think it's interesting.
It's something cool to watch, but I definitely think it's going to be more of a lagging indicator. I agree.
Yeah, for sure, like MACD or something. All right, guys, have a good one.
Catch you next one.